The invitation's shadow. The cream-colored envelope sat unopened on Jonathan Mercer's desk for 3 days. Its gold embossing caught the morning light streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office. He knew what it contained. The governor's platinum gala happened every 5 years, and this would be the first time he qualified for an invitation. 10 years ago, he couldn't have afforded a waiter's uniform at such an event. "Sir, do you need anything else before your 3 o'clock?" His assistant Raj stood in the doorway, tablet in hand. Jonathan tapped the envelope. "What do you know about this year's gala?" "Only that it's the social event of the season. Guest list is strictly controlled, old money political power players and a handful of new billionaires like yourself." Raj raised an eyebrow. "Are you actually considering attending? You usually avoid these things." "I usually have better things to do." Jonathan finally picked up the envelope, slicing it open with a letter opener. The invitation was exactly as expected. Formal language, dress code specifications, and the option to bring a +1. +1. The phrase triggered a memory he'd rather forget. Victoria Hargrove had once described this very event as the dream, a celebration where only true success was welcomed. The night she left him, she'd called his ambitions delusional. Her parting words still occasionally haunted his quieter moments. "I need stability, Jonathan." Not promises of what might happen someday. That someday had arrived 5 years ago when his security software company went public, making him a billionaire overnight. The irony wasn't lost on him that Victoria now attended these events on the arm of Richard Whitley, whose family fortune dated back 3 generations but was rumored to be dwindling. Jonathan set down the invitation. "I'll go." Raj couldn't hide his surprise. "Shall I contact your usual event coordinator for appropriate companionship options?" "No." Jonathan turned to his computer, pulling up a contact he hadn't reached out to in months. "I already know who I'm bringing." The following afternoon found him parked outside St. Mary's Hospice Center. The modest brick building stood in stark contrast to his usual surroundings. Jonathan checked his watch. Shift change would happen in 10 minutes. When Sophia Reeves emerged from the building, her auburn hair twisted into a practical bun and dark circles under her eyes betraying her exhaustion. Jonathan stepped out of his car. "Ms. Reeves, Jonathan Mercer. We met when my grandfather was here." Recognition dawned in her eyes. "Mr. Mercer, of course. How are you?" "I'm well. I was hoping I could have a few minutes of your time." She hesitated, glancing at her watch. "I have about 30 minutes before I need to pick up my daughter from after-school care." They settled at a nearby cafe, where Jonathan wasted no time explaining his unusual request. "You want me to attend the governor's gala with you?" Sophia's teaspoon clinked against her mug as she stirred her tea. "I don't understand. We've spoken maybe 3 times. 5, actually. And each time you showed my grandfather more dignity and care than anyone else in that facility. You read to him when you thought no one was listening." Sophia's cheeks flushed. "That's just part of good care." "No," Jonathan said firmly. "It's exceptional care. The kind most people in my circles have forgotten exists. So this is..." "What? A thank you?" Jonathan considered her question. "Partially. It's also selfish. I'll be surrounded by people measuring worth by bank accounts. I'd prefer company that reminds me of actual value." Sophia studied him carefully. "I don't have anything to wear to something like that." "That's easily resolved. I don't want charity." Jonathan smiled for the first time. "Consider it a consulting fee. I'm hiring your expertise in humanity for 1 evening." After several minutes of consideration, Sophia nodded slowly. "My daughter, childcare will be arranged with whoever you trust. All expenses covered. You've thought of everything. That's how I built my company." Jonathan finished his coffee. 1 week from Saturday. My assistant will contact you with details." As he drove away, he imagined Victoria's face when she saw who accompanied him. It wasn't the primary reason for his choice, but he couldn't deny the satisfaction it would bring. Whispers among diamonds. The governor's platinum gala transformed the State Historical Museum into a shimmering wonderland. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light across marble floors, while waitstaff in immaculate uniforms glided between clusters of the state's most influential citizens. Jonathan adjusted his custom tuxedo cuffs as the limousine pulled to a stop at the red carpet entrance. I feel like I'm in a different universe, Sophia whispered, smoothing the midnight blue gown that draped elegantly around her figure. The designer had created something both sophisticated and understated, exactly what Jonathan had requested. Just remember, half the people here are pretending to belong. Jonathan offered his arm as the door opened. The difference is, you don't need to pretend anything. Flashbulbs exploded as they emerged. Jonathan was used to this. His face had graced enough financial magazines to make him recognizable, but Sophia tensed beside him. "Smile naturally," he murmured. "They're just people with cameras." Inside, the opulence intensified. Ice sculptures depicting classical muses flanked a central fountain flowing with champagne. A string quartet played in one corner, their music almost drowned by the hum of networking conversations. "Jonathan Mercer, the man who revolutionized cybersecurity." Governor Harrison approached, hand extended. "I've been hoping to meet you. Your contributions to our state's technological corridor have been remarkable." As introductions continued, Jonathan felt Sophia gradually relax beside him. She spoke thoughtfully when addressed, neither intimidated nor trying to impress. When a surgeon's wife condescendingly asked if she worked, Sophia simply described her hospice role with quiet pride. "Fascinating choice of companion, Mercer," came a voice from behind them. Jonathan turned to find Marcus Pembroke, Victoria's brother-in-law through her marriage to Richard Whitley. "Everyone expected you'd bring some supermodel or actress." "I prefer substance over spectacle, Marcus." Jonathan kept his tone pleasant. "Clearly." Marcus's eyes flicked dismissively over Sophia. "Victoria mentioned you'd be here." "She's by the East Terrace with Richard, if you'd like to say hello for old time's sake." Jonathan nodded non-committally, but his eyes had already found Victoria across the room. Her blonde hair was swept into an elaborate updo, diamonds glittering at her throat. Despite her picture-perfect appearance, the tightness around her smile was unmistakable as she clung to Richard's arm. "She was important to you once," Sophia observed quietly. "She was," Jonathan acknowledged. "But she didn't believe in possibilities." "And now?" "Now she lives with her choice. As do I." He guided Sophia toward their assigned table. "I'm finding my choice for this evening far more pleasant than expected." Dinner proceeded through multiple courses of artfully presented cuisine. Sophia handled the bewildering array of silverware with quiet confidence that surprised Jonathan. "My grandmother was a stickler for table manners," she explained when he commented. "She believed dignity wasn't determined by wealth, but by how you carried yourself regardless of circumstances." "Your grandmother sounds remarkably wise." "She raised me after my parents died. Everything good in me comes from her." Their conversation was interrupted when Governor Harrison tapped his microphone. "Before dessert, I'd like to invite a few of our distinguished guests to share brief thoughts on success and community contribution." Jonathan stiffened when his name was announced third on the list. He hadn't prepared remarks, assuming his presence alone was his contribution to the event. When his turn came, he approached the podium, scanning the expectant faces. Victoria sat rigid in her chair, her gaze challenging. Something shifted in Jonathan's intention. "Success is a curious thing," he began. "We measure it with numbers, dollars, stock prices, market share. I've accumulated plenty of those metrics, enough to earn my place in this room. But true wealth?" He paused, finding Sophia's eyes. "True wealth I discovered in a hospice center, watching a woman named Sophia Reeves care for my dying grandfather." A murmur rippled through the crowd. She read poetry to a man who could no longer respond. She adjusted his pillows when she thought no one was watching. She treated him not as a fading life, but as a person deserving dignity until his final breath. Jonathan's voice strengthened. "My company provides security for data, but Sophia provides something far more valuable. She secures human dignity in our most vulnerable moments." Across the room, Victoria's champagne glass froze halfway to her lips. "We celebrate achievement in these gatherings as we should. But tonight, I'm honored not by my invitation to this event, but by the presence of someone whose daily work reminds me what true value looks like. Thank you, Sophia, for accompanying me tonight and for showing me what success actually means." The applause that followed held a note of surprise, As Jonathan returned to his seat, he noticed several guests regarding Sophia with newfound curiosity. "You didn't need to do that," she whispered, her cheeks flushed. "I didn't say anything untrue." As dessert was served, Jonathan became aware of Victoria's approach. Her smile was fixed, her eyes calculating. "Jonathan, darling, what a surprise to see you embracing these social obligations at last." She extended manicured fingers toward him. "And with such an unconventional choice of companion." The evening's most dangerous dance was about to begin. The worth of kindness. Victoria. Jonathan took her hand briefly, noticing how cold her fingers felt despite the warmth of the room. "You look well." Victoria's gaze slid to Sophia, assessment in her eyes. "Won't you introduce me to your friend?" "Of course. Sophia Reeves, this is Victoria Whitley." "Victoria, Sophia is the hospice nurse I mentioned in my speech." "Charmed," Victoria said, her smile not reaching her eyes. What an unusual profession to bring to such an event. One would think healthcare workers would be too busy for such frivolities. "Everyone deserves an occasional evening of beauty," Sophia replied evenly. "Though I admit I find beauty in many places most might overlook." Victoria's perfectly arched eyebrow rose fractionally. "How philosophical. Jonathan always did have a weakness for idealists." "I prefer to call it strength, not weakness," Jonathan interjected. "How is Richard? I noticed he's deep in conversation with the senator." "Thriving as always. The Whitley investments continue to expand." Victoria's voice carried a defensive edge that told Jonathan the rumors of financial trouble were likely true. "We've just purchased a summer home in the Hamptons." "How nice for you," Sophia said genuinely. "I hope it brings your family joy." Victoria seemed momentarily disarmed by the sincerity. "Well, I should return to my husband." "Perhaps we could catch up later, Jonathan? For old time's sake?" "Perhaps, though I find I'm quite content where I am." As Victoria retreated, Sophia turned questioning eyes to Jonathan. "She left you for security, didn't she?" "She left me because she couldn't see past present circumstances," Jonathan corrected. "She wanted guaranteed success, not the journey toward it." "And now that you've achieved it anyway?" "Now I realize what a gift her departure was," he smiled. "Some people only value what's already been validated by others." The evening progressed through dancing and further networking. Jonathan noticed something unexpected happening. People were seeking out Sophia. A state senator's wife discussed her mother's end-of-life care. A tech CEO asked thoughtful questions about hospice work. Even Governor Harrison spent 10 minutes in earnest conversation with her. "Your date is quite remarkable," observed Eliza Fontaine, a philanthropist known for her brutal honesty. "While we've all been collecting material things, she's been collecting moments that actually matter." "She has that effect," Jonathan agreed. "Makes you question what you've been pursuing." Later, as they shared a dance, Sophia looked up at him curiously. "Why did you really bring me tonight, Jonathan?" "The truth." He considered her question as they moved across the floor. "Initially, perhaps to prove something to Victoria, or to myself." His hand tightened slightly at her waist. "But now I realize I brought exactly who belongs here. Someone who reminds everyone, including me, what matters beyond all this." "And what's that?" "How we treat each other, how we honor dignity, how we love." As the music ended, Jonathan became aware of Victoria watching them from across the room. Her expression had changed from condescension to something more complex, perhaps recognition of what she had truly walked away from years ago. The moment was interrupted when Richard Whitley approached, his face flushed with too much champagne. "Mercer, outshining everyone as usual. Victoria tells me you two were once an item." His laugh held a bitter note. "Before you were anybody." "Richard," Victoria cautioned, appearing at his side. "What? It's funny, isn't it? How things turn out." Richard's voice carried just enough to draw attention. "You could have had the billionaire, darling, but you settled for me instead." Victoria's face drained of color. "Richard, please." "Not here." "Your husband seems to be enjoying the champagne," Jonathan said diplomatically. "Perhaps some fresh air would help." "Always the gentleman," Richard sneered. "Is that why you brought a nurse?" Planning to fall ill from all your excessive virtue? Sophia stepped forward. Mr. Whitley, there's a quiet terrace just through those doors. Would you allow me to accompany you? I find fresh air can be remarkably restorative. The gentle authority in her voice, the same she likely used with distressed patients, seemed to penetrate Richard's haze. Surprisingly, he nodded and allowed her to guide him toward the terrace doors. She's good, Victoria said quietly when they were alone. Genuinely good. Not just playing at it like the rest of us. She is, Jonathan agreed. I made a mistake, didn't I? Victoria's carefully constructed facade cracked slightly. Not just about your potential, about what matters. Jonathan studied the woman he had once planned to marry. We all make choices, Victoria. You chose certainty, I chose possibility. And now I'm choosing authenticity. He glanced toward the terrace where Sophia was speaking calmly to Richard. It's never too late to realign your priorities. For some of us, it might be, Victoria whispered, then composed herself as Richard and Sophia returned. As the gala drew to a close, Jonathan found himself surrounded by business cards and invitations, not for himself, but for Sophia. Her genuine presence had made an impression on people who encountered sincerity too rarely. In the limousine afterward, Sophia kicked off her heels with a sigh of relief. Well, that was certainly an experience. Regrets? Jonathan asked. Not one, she smiled. Though I suspect Victoria has a few. Perhaps. But tonight wasn't about Victoria in the end. What was it about then? Jonathan took her hand, surprising himself with the gesture. Beginnings, I think. The value of kindness. The worth of seeing people for who they truly are. Hospice teaches you that, Sophia said softly. When pretenses fall away, all that's left is the authentic self. I'd like to know more about that perspective, Jonathan said. Perhaps over dinner someday? Without all the pomp and circumstance? Sophia's smile reached her eyes. I'd like that very much. As the limousine glided through the night, Jonathan realized that what had begun as a gesture aimed at his past had unexpectedly opened a door to his future. Success had many measures, but tonight had taught him which ones truly mattered. Not the wealth that had gained him entry to the gala, but the wisdom to recognize real value when he found it, in the kind eyes of a woman who had revealed to him and to an entire room of the powerful and privileged the true nature of worth. Bridges of trust. In the months following the governor's gala, Jonathan and Sophia's relationship blossomed quietly. Their Sunday morning coffee dates became a ritual, held at a small neighborhood cafe where no one cared about Jonathan's net worth. There, between sips of cappuccino and shared pastries, they discovered the gentle rhythm of two lives slowly intertwining. Lily wants to know if you'll help with her science project, Sophia mentioned one crisp autumn morning, referring to her 10-year-old daughter. Something about renewable energy. Apparently, you're now her personal expert. Jonathan smiled. I'd be honored. Though I should warn you, my 5th grade science fair project was a disaster. She'll be thrilled regardless, Sophia replied. You've made quite the impression. It hadn't been easy at first. Lily had been protective of her mother, eyeing Jonathan with suspicion during their initial meetings. But a shared love of astronomy and his genuine interest in her opinions had gradually won her over. Later that week, as Jonathan sat at Sophia's modest kitchen table helping Lily construct a solar-powered water purifier, he caught Sophia watching them from the doorway, an expression of tender surprise on her face. What? He asked when Lily dashed off to find more aluminum foil. Just wondering how this happened, she said softly. A year ago, my life was work, Lily, sleep, repeat. Now there's you. Having regrets? He kept his tone light despite the sudden flutter of uncertainty. The opposite, she answered. I'm just not used to things working out unexpectedly well. Their conversation was interrupted when Jonathan's phone buzzed. He glanced down, surprised to see Victoria's name on the screen. I should take this, he said apologetically. It might be important. Outside on Sophia's small porch, Victoria's voice sounded strained. Jonathan, I wouldn't call if it weren't necessary. Richard's investment firm is collapsing. The rumors were true. He's been covering losses for years. Jonathan leaned against the railing, watching fallen leaves dance across Sophia's front yard. "I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm not sure how I can help. Your company is acquiring startups in the financial sector. Richard's firm has proprietary trading algorithms that could be valuable to you. Victoria, please, Jonathan, just meet with him, as a courtesy." Looking through the window at Sophia and Lily bent over their project, Jonathan made a decision. "I'll have my team review the technology. That's all I can promise." When he returned inside, Sophia studied his expression. "Everything okay?" "Just business," he replied. "Nothing that can't wait until Monday." But the boundaries between past and present were beginning to blur, creating a bridge Jonathan wasn't sure he wanted to cross. The truest fortune. The conference room at Mercer Technologies fell silent as Jonathan finished reviewing the assessment of Whitley Financial's assets. "So you're saying their algorithms are actually valuable?" he asked his chief technology officer. "Surprisingly, yes. Richard Whitley may be over-leveraged, but his R&D team created something remarkable. With our infrastructure behind it, we could revolutionize high-frequency trading." Jonathan nodded thoughtfully. "Prepare an offer, but keep it confidential for now." Later that evening, as snow began to fall outside Sophia's living room window, Jonathan watched her arrange ornaments on a small Christmas tree. Lily had fallen asleep on the couch, her science project, which had earned an A, sitting proudly on the coffee table. "You've been distracted tonight," Sophia observed quietly. "Is it work?" Jonathan hesitated. "Partly. Victoria's husband's company is failing. I'm considering acquiring some of their technology." Sophia's hands stilled on the tree. "I see. And how does that make you feel?" "Complicated," he admitted. "I'd be saving something Richard built while watching him lose status in the same social circles where Victoria once thought I didn't belong." "Is that why you do it? For vindication?" The question struck him with unexpected force. 6 months ago, maybe? Now? He looked at Lily's peaceful form, then back to Sophia. "Now I'd rather be the man you and Lily believe me to be." Sophia crossed the room, taking his hands in hers. "And who is that man, Jonathan? Someone who measures success by the lives he improves, not the competitors he outlasts." He smiled ruefully. "Someone who's learning that the truest fortune isn't counted in acquisitions or galas. And where is it counted?" Her eyes held his steadily. Jonathan gently touched her cheek. "In Sunday mornings. Science projects. Christmas trees. Moments that actually matter." Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering the world in quiet possibility. Inside, surrounded by the simple warmth of a home built on care rather than calculation, Jonathan Mercer, once defined by ambition alone, discovered the wealth that had always mattered most had nothing to do with balance sheets and everything to do with balance itself. As midnight approached, with Lily tucked safely in bed and Sophia's head resting against his shoulder, Jonathan made a silent promise. Whatever business decision he made about Richard's company would come from integrity, not ego. His journey had come full circle, from a man with everything to prove to one with nothing left to prove at all. The greatest success, he now understood, wasn't being invited to the room where it happens, but creating a room where love happens instead.